Cheerio everybody and welcome to The Gentleman Voice. Once again, it's time for a little bit of R&R.
Recline.
So I was sitting down and I decided to watch a movie the other day, and it was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. And I'm going to be very honest, there's a lot of things in that movie that really kind of bugged me. Heads up everybody, if you have not seen the Harry Potter movies because you've been living in a hole, then you should leave this video. Also, if you haven't read the books because you've been in a hole underneath a rock, you should definitely leave this video. That said, let's get right to it. Let's talk about Harry Potter. So while I was watching this movie, I actually made up a list of the 15 Harry theses, which I was going to tack up onto my door and say, hey, look at this is what I gotta say. Then I realized that no one would actually look at my door because no one knows where I live. So I was going to fly down to Universal Studios Florida and tack it on front of the Harry Potter world and say, ha! You see, this is what I've got to say about that. And then I realized that would cost money, and I don't have that kind of money. So I'm posting it here for you instead. You can thank me later. Now these are presented in no particular order, maybe a little bit chronological, but there's going to be really no rhyme or reason. And it's not going to cover just Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, it's also going to be Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 1. So let's get to it. So first of all, let's talk about the fact that there are 3 Hallows. Only in the movie you might not know that because they don't really go into that. I mean, they do in the first one, but then when you get to Part 2, it's like, hey, well, let's just sort of mention and forget them. That's something else about the series. What they do is they start to explain things in the first 2, and then after they go, you can read the book. So the Deathly Hallows, there are 3 of them. The Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak. Well, guess what? In the book, they make it very clear that there are the 3 Hallows. They show which ones are which. If you want to know that the Invisibility Cloak that Harry Potter is carrying around all the time is one of the Hallows, you gotta go read the book. Or you have to be really observant. And for the most part, I don't think everybody was. I think the only connection they make in the actual movies is the fact that, oh well, look at this crest, it looks very familiar. Oh Harry, listen to the... I'm too busy being depressed while I stare at my parents' graves. And then you forget about it because it was so glossed over that nobody even noticed. So the whole point about mentioning that is that Harry's supposed to be essentially the master of the 3 Hallows at the end. Whereas in the movie, all you know is he picks up the Resurrection Stone, only to throw it away about a minute later. And then at the end he gets the Elder Wand, which he then casts into a chasm. More on that later. The Invisibility Cloak never comes up as a Hallow. It's like, oh, if you want to know that, go look in the book. Which begs the question, why did they even call the movie The Deathly Hallows if the Hallows are so glanced over that instead it's more about, oh, the battle for Hogwarts. Which is essentially all the last movie is. So let's talk about the last battle. Spells are going everywhere, and you're supposed to have an emotional connection with everybody who dies. Oh no, it's one of the Weasley twins who's dead! Okay. We sort of saw him die, but it was mostly off screen. Oh no! Lupin and Tongs are both dead! Oh gee, that's so sad. We didn't even get the off-screen death of that. So you're supposed to have a connection to these people who die, but you don't really see them at all during the movie, so it's like, well, okay, they're dead, well... who's gonna die next? Tell me that you actually had an emotional connection to this. And then there were a whole bunch of logical things that needed clarification. But this was a Harry Potter movie, so if you recall what they say before, they can look it up in the books. For example, when they're talking about how wands can change allegiance. That's actually a pretty cool development. However, J.K. Rowling explains that if you get defeated in a wizard duel, then it's kind of, okay, well, the wand will now obey you. But then, in the movie, that's not made very clear. I mean, it's briefly said that, oh, this wand is unyielding. Oh, this wand, its allegiance has changed. And then they move on. And then I came across a thought I never really considered. If a wand changes allegiance because you get defeated in a duel, the whole ending where Voldemort has no control over the Elder Wand, it makes no sense. Okay, well, let's look at this a little bit more in depth. Starts out with Dumbledore. Oh, I've got the Elder Wand because I defeated that guy. Oh no, I just got disarmed by a little boy named Draco Malfoy. That's embarrassing. And then Draco essentially has control of the Elder Wand. I've got the Elder Wand! Not really because he never used it, but for dramatic effect. I've got the Elder Wand, Potter! What are you going to do? Expelliarmus! Oh no! I just got disarmed by Harry Potter! That's like what happens all the time! I'm a bad wizard. So then Harry's got the Elder Wand. I've got the Elder Wand because I just defeated Draco Malfoy, but I don't own the Elder Wand because Voldemort dug up the grave where it was buried. And Voldemort's like, the wand will not answer to me. But then here comes the really crazy thing. Harry goes out to the forest to face Voldemort, essentially to sacrifice himself, and Voldemort's like, oh, and Harry's like, ah! So Harry gets defeated, but the wand still answers to Harry Potter. So apparently the wands will change allegiance only if you get disarmed in a duel, and then if you die, no, it's loyal to the end. And I mean, you could make the argument that Harry technically didn't die, or that this wasn't even a real battle. But here's the thing, if he died for even just half a second, he was defeated. So the Elder Wand should answer to Voldemort. But it doesn't. So we need an explanation, which, as you may recall, oh, you can go read the book. But I don't even think this is explained in the books. And then this leads to the whole question of, why does the movie end the way it does? Not talking about the whole 19 or so years later thing, which I actually don't have as much of a problem with as a whole lot of people, so let's not even talk about that. So Harry's got the Elder Wand and it answers to him now, which if you just listen to my conversation might not have really been the case. He's the most powerful wand in the entire world and he can do whatever he wants because he doesn't really have his own wand anymore. So he breaks it and throws it into a chasm. Seriously, that made no sense. Not the fact they threw it into a chasm, although that does not make sense. But the whole fact that they changed the ending of the book just to make it into the movie thing. And they made it cliched. Horribly cliched. In the book, he's carried around the shattered pieces of his old wand, and he uses the Elder Wand to repair it. Great! And then he says, okay, well, we're going to return the Elder Wand to Dumbledore so that it can be buried with him. Superb! That's a totally different kind of ending. Whereas the movie decided to go with, oh, I don't want the power. Totally cliched ending. Totally stupid. Why? I mean, they would have had to go and explain that, oh, well, the Elder Wand, because it's so powerful, can repair wands. Oh, explaining. But if you take the time to explain, you could make it better. Speaking of explaining, here's a doozy. So halfway through Harry Potter 7.1, they're saying, oh, Voldemort, 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 Voldemort. And after that, they start saying, you know who. And then everyone who does say Voldemort gets converged upon by Death Eaters. But the book, it makes sense. Ron comes out and says, they put a taboo on his name. What's a taboo? It's a curse where if you say his name, they will know it. Whereas in the movie, it's a deleted scene. That was an important scene. Now with it not explained in the whole movie, it's like, why does when people say Voldemort, people come? I'll tell you why. Magic! But if it's magic, you gotta explain magic! Yes, but even if it's magic, there needs to be an explanation. It's magic, damn it! It needs to be explained. If you don't explain something, then we're left to wonder, and we have to consider that while we're going through the entire movie, it slows us down and takes us out of the whole picture. And then another important series of things that needs to be talked about is precedence. You know how if you're going on trial and you have a lawyer and you say, okay, well, we got this whole problem here, we need to take care of it. If we take this case here, oh, some weird little name, and we say, well, this precedence, it gives us precedence because of the ruling on that, we can say, okay, good, well, then in that case, we can use that as our argument. Problem is, Harry Potter in the movies is like, you don't get that kind of option. For example, a whole bunch of special effects gets changed in the meantime from Harry Potter 1 to Harry Potter 7. For example, when Harry's walking underneath the cloak and you get the whole fabric feel, no, that's changed now. You get a focus with a little weird blur edge. That doesn't look at all very magical, it looks very, cheap. And then the ghost got a total makeover. In the first movie, they're all bright white and woo. Once you get to the 7th movie, after they've had about 4 or 5 movies without any appearance, may I add, suddenly they're just transparent humans. Oh yeah, but you had a precedent. You had a precedent from way back when saying ghosts are bright white. And now, no. We have changed that, and they are transparent humans. Which, okay, if you really, really want to do that, I can take that. I can accept the changes because special effects have come a long way. But it's a little bit distracting nonetheless. But there's precedent for everything else that's a problem too. Like the Imperious Charm. In the fourth movie where they're explaining how it works and you're using your wand to control somebody, but then you get into this movie and it's like, expecto laughing gas! I'm high as a kite! And that just made no sense. Hello! Presidents! Now let's talk about the memories that Snape gave Harry. He doesn't do the, I'm gonna give you memories from my head. No, that would be too simple. Instead, it's sparkling tears. I don't know, I didn't know that those were memories at first. I was trying to figure out what was going on. They could have been just really sparkly tears. Vampire tears! But you had precedents! People take memories from their head by putting their wand there and going... So how come there are tears with memory? But then by far one of the biggest things that are just so weird and out of nowhere, the mirror shard that Harry carries around. Where did that come from? No one knows, unless you can go read a book and get the explanation. Seriously, it made no sense. In the fifth book, it made sense. Because Sirius is like, here's my gift to you. It is a two-way mirror so that we can converse to each other. And then Sirius dies. Okay, well, that makes sense. And the other part of the mirror is at Sirius Black's house. And then, of course, Dumbledore's brother gets it. And it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. The movie makes no sense! The movie's explanation on that is, oh, we've got this magic mirror shard that came out of nowhere. And it's from this mirror piece that, for some reason, lets you look through that and you see what the shard sees, so what's the point of it? And the guy's got it, and it's just like, oh well, I got that mirror, it was stolen from Sirius's house and it was given to me. Seriously? That's the explanation you're going with? But you see, the main reason that this doesn't work is precedence! In the fifth movie, he never gets the mirror. In the sixth movie, there's no mirror. And so the mirror suddenly is like, hello, I'm here! So, where'd it come from? I'll tell you where. Magic! And that's really the only explanation you're going to get for that. And a little minor thing here to throw it all off, well, there's Malfoy who's able to apparate within Hogwarts. And no, you can't just say he suddenly shows up, because it's clearly apparating. But in the books, it's clearly said you cannot apparate within Hogwarts. And if you don't want to go by the books, let's go to a clip from the sixth movie.
Take my arm.
So I thought you couldn't apparate within Hogwarts?
Well, being me has its privileges.
Precedence! You can't just change things willy-nilly because you want to! I mean, if you want to say that, okay, we took down the whole charm where you could apparate within Hogwarts, fine! But establish it! Have someone say we had to take that down. Even if it's a little one line of exposition, put it in! That way you don't get people like me ranting about it. And now for the big one. The one that really pissed me off. Throughout every single movie so far, Voldemort has never been able to tell when his Horcruxes are destroyed. Journal? Nothing. Ring? Nothing. Locket? Nothing. And that was one movie ago. Suddenly in this movie it's like, oh, the trophy got destroyed! No! And then it's like, oh, the diadem got destroyed! Oh, my soul! My soul! And then it's like, my snake! Where did these come from? Why is he suddenly able to tell when his Horcruxes get destroyed? You can make the argument that, oh well, he was looking into Harry and he could see that. No, you can't say that! Because if you think about it, Harry was not around when the trophy got destroyed. So he technically should not know about it. And then you can still make the argument, why did he know when the locket got destroyed? Just one movie ago! It makes no sense! And do you know why? Precedence! You can't just say, oh, those films never happened, we're going to change it so that way it works like this. You can't do that because that just doesn't make any sense. Precedence is important. Those are the main theses that I bring up, but there are others, like how we suddenly start the second part over at Fleur's house, even though we didn't know it was Fleur's house before. Because Ron's just like, we'll just go right here and it'll be safe. Trust me. Or the fact that Hagrid just suddenly shows up at the very end of the second movie and you're like, where's he been this whole time? And of course, at the very end, when Voldemort gets killed, there's no explanation for why he turns into scraps of burning paper. But you know what? I'm willing to venture a guess. I have no idea. So yeah, there are the 15 theses of why Harry Potter makes no sense at the very end. Even though things were established, they just get totally thrown away. So that's what I gotta say about the Harry Potter movies. These ones were a little bit above average. Not the best, not the worst, but they could have been better. And they would have been if they actually followed precedence! That's all I gotta say. Thank you for watching, cheerio, and farewell.